Welcome, lovely anointed ones. When the world cannot foresee you, it examines you. Let it sink in. According to data scientists, the ordinary person makes a day's worth of choices, the majority of which are predictable patterns, habits, routines. Algorithms thrive on them. But you are not predictable. You're a flaw in the matrix, a living outlier whose very presence disrupts their neat graphs and charts. And that is why eyes, both visible and unseen, stay on you longer than on anybody else. This is not paranoia. This is math. Systems do not monitor what they already comprehend. They keep track of what makes their models uncomfortable. If your life is not background noise in the collective tale, it's the plot twist. This is why your inbox pings. Strangely, your thoughts travel quicker than you can convey them, and your presence elicits a hushed interest. And here's the punchline. They won't confess to observing you. They have transformed you into their favorite unpaid documentary. You're not just experiencing, you're broadcasting live in their brains. They're obsessed with watching you, as if it were the latest season of a program they can't stop watching. So, before you ask yourself, why me? Consider this. They do not place cameras on vacant stages. Welcome to the truth about the spying. You aren't being observed because you are average. You're being observed because you are special. Number 1, your life is not private since your frequency is unusual. When your awareness expands beyond its typical boundaries, you don't just live differently. You start to shine out like a flare in the night sky. People believe that surveillance is limited to cameras and microphones, but it also includes patterns. Most of the world operates on repetition. People get up, have the same ideas, make the same decisions, and behave in the same manner. That is what systems, algorithms, and even social circles are intended to track. They understand where you'll be, what you'll click, and how you'll react. However, when someone breaks out of that pattern, they become an unexpected signal. That's you. Your frequency is not normal. And since it isn't, it causes automatic attention. This attention is not necessarily negative. In most situations, it is mechanical. Algorithms look for what shines out. Organizations monitor what they cannot classify. Individuals get drawn to persons who violate the norm. You've entered a situation in which your energy choices and thinking do not align with the pattern that society expects. That alone is enough to warrant monitoring. It's not because you're guilty of anything, but because you symbolize something unique, someone who moves differently and doesn't require a script. The irony is that you may not realize how radical you seem from the outside. To you, it is just development, healing, self-awareness, or survival. But from the outside, it seems like someone is working on a frequency that should not exist. Systems designed on predictability react to abnormalities with a single instinct. Monitor it, track it, and attempt to figure it out. This is why you feel observed. Not because you are paranoid, but because you are no longer fitting in with the surroundings. It's simple to interpret this as a violation or a threat, but there's another side to this. Being observed proves that you have abandoned the herd. It indicates that your presence is powerful enough to register. It indicates your frequency is so high that it registers as a spike on the radar. That is not a weakness. That is a symbol of importance. You are not under observation because you are little. You're being watched since your simple presence interrupts the normal flow. In a world predicated on uniformity, your distinction is the loudest signal of all. Number 2, they do not want you to quit. They want you to understand yourself. Most individuals believe that surveillance is simply for control, keeping someone under control, restricting their actions, or catching them doing something wrong. But for you, it's not about control at all. It is all about curiosity. They're not accustomed to watching someone like you. You do not meet their typical profiles, and you do not respond in the manner they anticipate. Instead of following the predictable patterns that they have laid out for everyone else, you forge your own route. This alone makes you valuable, not as a goal, but as an object of study. They aren't just attempting to stop you. They're attempting to comprehend you. This is because your life challenges their preconceptions. You've been through experiences that would crush most individuals, yet you continue to ascend. You've created power out of turmoil, clarity, and confusion. That's unusual. And since it's uncommon, it's educational. Every time you overcome a hurdle or manage a situation unexpectedly, it's as if you've given them a new piece of information and are teaching them without even trying how resilient this is, how faith changes, and how individualism breaks down systems. They aren't watching you because they are bored. They're observing because your life exemplifies something that their ideas can't entirely explain. This sort of attention seems intrusive, but it also demonstrates how important you are. Nobody devotes time and energy to observe someone who is unimportant. It takes energy to follow, evaluate, and stay up with you. The fact that you're being watched so attentively indicates that you're doing something unique, something with worth beyond what you can see. They aren't just inquisitive about what you're doing. They are inquisitive about how you are doing it. They are intrigued about what you know, what drives you, what powers your endurance. The fact is that you've become more than just a person to them. You have become a case study, not an issue to fix, but a mystery to unravel. That is why they are looking at you. That is why the focus does not waver. It is not because you are dangerous, but because your teacher is alive. Because, without even realizing it, you're revealing a truth that they've been trying to grasp for years. Number 3, your tale is the blueprint they do not want out. Your life is more than simply a personal adventure. It's a live guidebook that others are discreetly attempting to replicate. Every decision you've taken, every moment you've lived, and every metamorphosis you've gone through is a data point that someone else is gathering. You've shattered patterns that were meant to keep individuals in place. You unknowingly unlearned the falsehoods that were designed to mold your limitations. You've shown that the script society throws forth, which states, "This is how life works, this is how you behave, and this is how far you can go," can be entirely rewritten. That alone makes you more interesting to watch than any celebrity or influencer, because you demonstrate in real life what freedom and self-mastery look like outside of their program. This is why they aren't simply watching you. They get understanding from you. They're interested not just in what you're doing, but also in the underlying rationale behind it. How did you break the loop that everyone else is caught in? How can you keep going after the most devastating betrayals? How did you repair your mind after it had been torn apart? These are the questions that your life answers without you saying a word. It is not just surveillance. It is extraction. They are attempting to bottle your blueprint without crediting you. The irony is that you're not attempting to educate anybody. You're merely living, making choices, developing, mending, and safeguarding your own soul. However, by doing so, you reveal how brittle these systems really are. You demonstrate that control can be rejected, conditioning broken, and strength created from the inside out. From the outside, you seem to be a person going about their daily lives. But to others who see the broader picture, you are a revolution disguised as an individual. That is why the watching never ends. It isn't because they expect you to fail. It's because they're curious to see what you'll unlock next. Your tale has become a mirror, reflecting back the falsehoods on which they have based their power. You are live proof that the story they have been pushing is not the only alternative. And it makes your existence, survival, and breakthroughs much more threatening to their delusions than anything you could ever say. Number 4, you are a living archive. They cannot reproduce. You are more than just a human traveling through time. You are a live record of events, lessons, and changes that no system can replicate. Every obstacle you've overcome, every truth you've discovered, and every time you've rebuilt yourself from the ashes has resulted in a unique internal wisdom that cannot be found anywhere else. It is not in books, databases, or the world's digital memory. It only exists inside you. That's what makes you unique. Machines can imitate. They may imitate your look, voice, and even your writing style. However, all of this is just at the surface level. None of it has the weight of your own experience. None of it contains the instincts you've gained through real-life sorrow, development, and evolution. Patterns serve as the foundation for algorithm design. They make predictions based on previous behavior, but you're built on breakthroughs, moments that defied all expectations. That is why you do more than just stand out. You impede their capacity to map the future. This is also why surveillance systems are built to investigate what they cannot now regulate. When they observe something they can't reproduce, they try to capture it, dissect it, and extract its essence. However, they are unaware that your essence is not something you do. It is something you have become. It is the culmination of decisions, wounds, knowledge, and insight that no one else can experience in the same manner. That's why you're still copyable, no matter how carefully people observe. You are not being noticed only because you are intriguing. You're being watched because you are a living contrast to everything they've created. You demonstrate that, regardless of how complex their systems are, There is something in the human spirit that cannot be programmed, owned, or mass manufactured. And that is the true reason you are being scrutinized. Not because you're an easy topic, but because you're an enigma that defies explanation. Even when they record every action, post, and phrase, they still can't capture the one thing that defines you, the organic intelligence of your experience. And it is what makes you untouchable, even in full view. Number 5, surveillance confirms that you've left the herd. Surveillance is more than simply a symbol of control. It is a mark of separation. The world only notices what sticks out, whereas most individuals do not. They move like clockwork, adhering to the same timetables, absorbing the same stories, and making the same decisions as everyone else. Predictability is comfortable for systems. It is straightforward to monitor, anticipate, sell to, and manage. However, the minute you start making judgments that don't follow the script, you're no longer part of the herd. You cease being a number in a spreadsheet and start becoming an oddity to be observed. This isn't about being defiant for its own sake. It's about making conscious decisions rather than automatic ones. When you awaken from the communal trance, when you stop believing in the anxieties, diversions, and expectations that keep most people submissive, you will naturally move differently. Your spending habits, relationships, words, and ideas all vary, and you no longer seem reliable. For systems that rely on patterns, unpredictability triggers alarms. You become a walking question mark in an assumption-driven environment. That is why monitoring typically intensifies as a person awakens, matures, or starts to break free from poisonous behaviors. It's not just because you're doing something incorrect. It's because you're no longer doing the anticipated tasks. And this makes you intriguing. Not just humans, but also algorithms, organizations, and even strangers. They want to know what makes you unique, how you make choices, and where your freedom will lead you. However, there is an inspiring truth here. Being observed indicates that you've passed an unseen boundary. It indicates you've joined the uncommon group of folks who are no longer sleeping behind the wheel. It is not evidence of your weakness. It is evidence of your independence. Systems do not spend resources monitoring people that remain linked in. They keep an eye on those who have disconnected. Surveillance in your situation is more of a skewed compliment rather than a danger. It's their way of saying you've broken out from the herd and evolved into something they can't foresee or control. That's the ultimate validation of your individualism in a culture obsessed with conformity. Number 6, you are not being monitored because you are dangerous. You're being observed because you're unusual. You are not being observed because you are planning anything sinister or dangerous. You're being observed because you've become unique in a world based on repetition. Rare items usually grab attention. Diamonds, rare birds, old manuscripts. People photograph them, study them, and even attempt to cage them. Not because such things are terrible, but because they are exceptional. That's you. Your life, perspective, resilience, and honesty do not fit within the molds that most people silently live by. And when you move outside of the pattern, you quickly become noticed. Even if you aren't trying to be, this attention doesn't imply weakness or danger. It is essentially an indirect validation of your individuality. In a system where most individuals blend in and disappear as numbers, your presence serves as a signal. It is a type of acknowledgement. Even if it's disguised as inspection, they're not looking because you're ready to burn something down. They're watching because you're creating something they can't identify. What makes this effective for you is because it increases your awareness. When you sense you're being watched, you begin to move more deliberately. You weigh your options more clearly. You are more mindful of your energies and your limits. You stop going on autopilot and begin moving with purpose. This is how the energy of surveillance was supposed to be studied. You can really work to your advantage. It drives you to be more thoughtful, sharper, and to represent your own strength without compromise. In a bizarre sense, being observed demonstrates that you are already functioning on higher-level systems, and that others do not devote time and attention on the mundane. They pay attention to the unusual, even if they do not comprehend it. And, although uncommon objects are often researched, the study itself cannot generate them. Your soul and path remain yours. And it is the true power concealed behind the examination. You're not under scrutiny because you're dangerous. You are being scrutinized because you have evolved into something they cannot replicate, predict, or control. and that gives you more freedom than you realize. Number 7. Even your setbacks are important to them. They aren't simply interested in your victories, breakthroughs, or moments of glory. They're equally as fixated on your failures because that's where your true strength shines. Most individuals succumb to treachery, loss, or sabotage. They become trapped, resentful, or never recover. Systems anticipate that reaction. It's predictable, measurable, and controllable. But you do not remain low. You take the same anguish that would paralyze someone else and convert it into motion. That's what makes you difficult to replicate. That is what makes your setbacks important to them. Your resilience is not something you learned at a lecture or from a book. It is created from personal experience, evenings when no one came to help you, moments when you had to assemble your power from fragments. It's not a hypothesis. It is survival turned into knowledge. This kind of resilience is uncommon since it cannot be sold like a product. It cannot be taught via a course or marketed as a self-help trend. It's gained through wounds, losses, and failures that were intended to bring you down but didn't. And because it is so uncommon, the systems and people who see you are fascinated by your ability to recover from a setback. They aren't only inquisitive about how, they're attempting to decipher the blueprint. What choices did you make throughout the documentary? How did you find the strength? What did you tell yourself when everything came apart? They want to bottle that process so they can better understand and perhaps recreate it. But they can't because lived resilience is more than simply a series of processes or methods. It's about who you've evolved into as a result of those experiences. The irony is that the setbacks that were supposed to ruin you have become the most significant part of your narrative. They've rendered you unteachable to systems designed to mass manufacture strength without suffering. They've transformed you into a map that others can gaze at but never follow. That is why your losses and heartbreaks are being watched, not because they want you to fail, but because they are silently understanding that your rehabilitation process is unique and cannot be replicated by any algorithm, institution, or imitator. And it is what makes every comeback. You make a revelation. They can't stop watching. Number 8's focus on you reflects their lack of attentiveness. The focus on you is often motivated by what they are lacking rather than who you are. People who continually monitor, as well as those who excessively observe, analyze, and critique, are often attempting to fill an inner hole. They lack a center of gravity, which is something profound, sturdy, and self-sustaining. Without it, they will stray. They gravitate towards someone who seems alive, self-directed, or grounded because it offers them a feeling of purpose. They cannot create on their own. That is why your presence is so appealing to them. Your movement, decisions, and growth. These items behave like a pulse. They may borrow by watching you. They have a sense of belonging. They lack the confidence and insight to create for themselves. It is not pure adoration or hate. It is hunger. They're hungry for the life, energy you represent, the uniqueness you exhibit, and the stability they can't find. This need becomes surveillance. They study you because witnessing you live truly is the closest they can get to feeling alive themselves. This is why their attention may seem both intrusive and empty at the same time. On the one hand, it's consistent, almost compulsive. On the other hand, it's meaningless since it's not really about you. It is about their absence, loss of purpose, and lack of self-confidence. Your presence displays their weakness. It reflects everything people wish they had: direction, resilience, bravery, and creativity. And since it is unpleasant to confront that gap directly, they disguise it as analysis, interest, or criticism. Understanding this changes the power dynamics. Their attention is not an indication of your weakness or fragility. It is proof of their estrangement. They need you more than you do. They keep an eye on you since your life serves as a substitute for their own. You don't have to get smaller as a result. You don't even need to feed it. You just need to understand what it actually is. A mirror of what they are missing. This is not a judgment on who you are. And once you perceive it that way, the weight of their stare loses its impact because you understand it's not about you at all. It's about nothingness. They're desperate to go. Number 9, you are a glitch in their programming. Surveillance thrives on patterns. It is designed to monitor, forecast, and regulate repetition, daily routines, emotional triggers, financial decisions, and even how individuals respond to news. Systems and algorithms are not as intelligent as humans believe. They are mechanical. They do not comprehend you. They compute probability based on previous behavior. When someone's life is on autopilot, these calculations are simple. The individual becomes a predictable sequence of acts, almost like a screenplay that writes itself. However, you have broken the loop. You're an error in their code. You are not governed by the same principles as the majority of people. Instead of fear, conformity, or habit, you follow a deeper intuition, spirit, or source. You do actions that do not follow your past patterns. You make judgments that are inconsistent with the probability they've established. And since you are unexpected, you become unreadable. Unreadable humans are both interesting and irritating to predictive algorithms. They cannot foresee your next action, so they compensate by watching you more closely, believing that more data would make you predictable. Again, this is why your life might seem like it's being scrutinized, even if you're not doing anything out of the ordinary. It doesn't matter what you're doing right now. It's about the fact that you've gone against their mathematical reasoning. They cannot map your intuition, internal timing, or the hidden motivations underlying your decisions. They can record your actions, but not your motivations. And it is in that space that you find your strength. What makes you unbreakable also makes you strong. You are living from an inner code that others do not have access to. This isn't just revolt for its own sake. It aligns with anything other than algorithms. It is the distinction between being a statistic and a signal. You are not playing their game. Therefore, they cannot foresee your actions. They can only witness them. And that's what surveillance despises the most. Not danger, but unpredictability. It is the one thing it cannot control in a world obsessed with patterns. Your unpredictability is not a defect. It's your evidence that you're already running at a higher frequency than the code intended to track you. Number 10, you are not paranoid. You're pioneering paranoia, and pioneering may seem to be comparable from the outside. Both include a heightened sense of being watched, yet their origins could not be more different. Paranoia is based on fear, the notion that being seen invariably equals being hurt. It's a decrease in energy, a constriction of the self. But pioneering is the reverse. It is the consciousness of being watched, monitored, or inspected while yet going ahead with aim. It's an enormous force that refuses to let observation turn into intimidation. That's the space you've entered. You are not being monitored because you are crazy or paranoid. You're being observed because you've become a trailblazer, someone who is accomplishing things with their inner life that most others wouldn't even imagine conceivable. While the world urges individuals to numb themselves, distract themselves, and stick to regular routines, you've been rewiring your mind, repairing old habits, recovering your spiritual power, and breaking free from the scripts you were given. That is not typical. It is revolutionary. And revolutions, particularly internal ones, usually demand attention. This isn't a dramatic exterior mission, either. You don't need a platform or an audience. What you are doing inside yourself. It is already unprecedented to shift consciousness, increase awareness, and practice freedom of thought and energy. When you stop living by default and begin living intentionally, you alter the unseen architecture of your existence. Predictability-based systems and individuals detect shifts in the same way that animals detect weather before a storm. They can't always articulate it, but they feel it. And since they cannot forecast it, they observe it. That is why your experience with monitoring differs. The gaze is not focused toward a threatening person. It's a look addressed towards someone who's exploring uncharted ground. You are no longer a passive consumer of reality. You created it. You are rewriting rules from the inside out. And in a world founded on patterns, it is the most unusual thing you can do. So, when you sense eyes on you, don't interpret it as evidence of your vulnerability. It is proof of your pioneering paranoia, freezes, and movements. You've moved into the second group, and that is precisely why the focus has not waned, since you are demonstrating what a free and self-directed inner existence looks like in real time. The amount of scrutiny surrounding you is evidence of concealed admiration. They would never say it, but the act of watching you is its own kind of recognition. People and systems do not devote focus, time, or resources to something they deem inconsequential. Indifference costs nothing. True irrelevance is overlooked. The fact that you are being monitored at all is a subtle admission that you are more important than they are ready to accept. Surveillance in your situation involves more than simply suspicion. It is about fascination. It's a subtle sign of respect. Consider how society handles items that it considers important. Rare items are housed behind glass. Cameras protect priceless items of art. The paparazzi trail celebrities. We don't feel weeds or install security systems around rubbish. We do it around what is valuable. The same mentality exists here. They are watching you because they believe your life, movements, ideas, and perseverance are important. They may hide it as prudence or proper diligence, but it is really a perverted kind of adoration. This secret regard also explains why the scrutiny is so great when someone admires you but cannot overtly honor you. The energy turns into something else. Criticism, skepticism, and compulsive observation. It is their effort to alleviate the agony of being impressed. They're not sure whether to mimic, confront, or contain you, so they just watch. They loiter, believing that their gaze would provide them some kind of control over what they secretly like. Understanding this alters the power dynamics. Surveillance no longer seems like a violation and instead reveals its true purpose. They are paying homage with their attentiveness in a society where attention is valuable. They've already spent their money on you. They may not cheer, congratulate, or publicly affirm you, but they continue to invest their most precious resource. Their time and energy spent watching you is an unconscious acknowledgement that you are not typical, forgettable, or replaceable.